Now, we have an Instagram page that you guys can go follow us over there on. We are 39 followers away from 1,000. Help us get there. More of our short form coverage, photos, etc. will be available. Go follow us on Instagram at Cowboys Report IG. First up from Joseph Thomas. How many years think they're going to keep Dak? At least one, and then I don't know. I don't know where he's going to end up. Is it a Cowboys thing? Is it a Dak thing? Is it a mutual thing? They haven't really talked to the agents. It's kind of just some weirdness going on there. I think it's a great question, and I know it's bad to say I don't know, but I don't know. I don't know if he's there for the next 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, or if it's just this is it. I think everything's on the table because of the way the Cowboys have handled this contract from the beginning of when he was eligible for a deal. From Food Review, team is a mess. So McCarthy is fired before the trade deadline. Probably not going to happen. What player has the most value that you're willing to give up in a fire sale? So if you're going fire sale, you should go fire sale. And this next part's going to be kind of controversial. That means there's like a handful of players who aren't available. Team loses his quarterback. Say, hey, Dak, we're bad. You want to go try to win a championship? Talk to him about it. That one's probably impossible, but still. Any running back is available. Any receiver not named CeeDee Lamb is available. Frankly, if you're fire selling, you should take pretty much whatever you can get for Brandon Cooks. Doesn't matter at that point. 5th round pick, that's fine. It also allows you to spend money in free agency if you want to do that and not risk out on losing your comp pick. Offensive line, you're keeping Guyton, you're keeping Smith, you're keeping all your young guys. Terrence Steele's playing bad. I'd love to fire sale him, but that's probably not going to happen. This next part is sacrilegious. You should listen to calls on Zach Martin. You should, because he's not going to help you win now. I know it's like the Emmitt Smith thing of like him playing in a Cardinals jersey, but you just gotta maximize your team and your long-term potential and let Zach go try to win a championship somewhere else. I'm actually okay with that. Tank Lawrence, if you're not going to re-sign him, let him go. At that point, you're only kind of keeping Micah, basically, your young players at linebacker, and probably your young corners, Malik Hooker, Donovan Wilson. If you're fire sale right. If you're trying to win, try to win right. It's not been the Cowboys' MO so far. From Long John, trade for Najee Harris. I think that stuff got overblown from some bad reporting out of Pittsburgh, or there wasn't out of Pittsburgh there. I don't really find much credibility to him being moved. I would also like someone with more explosiveness. If he's cheap enough, sure. 1,000-yard rusher. You don't really have one of those right now, historically speaking, at least in recent memory. But I'm also not sure he's that high-end player anymore. But then again, it kind of becomes, don't look a horse in the mouth. Never said the expression, but it means like take what's given to you. You don't have much of that in the backfield. Spin comment on today's video. Name a player who you want to trade for. Go ahead and sound off for me in the comment section of today's show. The pin comment of the video. Zeno saying, more likely, Cowboys win a Super Bowl or Madden is realistic. Well, Madden's literally not realistic, and it hasn't been in a very long time. So I think by definition, as unlikely as the first one is, I guess give me Cowboys win a Super Bowl. But that's like, hey, can you count higher than half? 1. Okay, I did it. The bar's very low there. Checked out Adam Predictions. He says the Cowboys go 8-9, Bears go 12-5 as if. That'd be the worst Cowboys season since they got or really lucked into Romo when the quarterback's been healthy. That'd be the biggest Cowboy season disappointment since they were actually contending for championships. That's how bad that would be. And I still think this is a 10-11 win team. From Corey Childs, if this team doesn't exceed expectations, will they fire Mike McCarthy and trade Dak? The funny part is they don't do either. They just let them leave. Mike's out of contract. Dak's out of contract, which does have like some downside to it. When everyone's on a one-year deal, and if things get a little shaky, what can happen is everyone starts looking out for me instead of we. They're like, I got to worry about my job. I got to worry about my next gig. Which sometimes it's the, hey, we're all fighting for our job. Let's unify and rally together. It can also go sideways on you. So if they don't exceed expectations, yeah, Mike and Dak might be gone. Whether by their choice, they now have control over their own futures. What's to stop those guys from saying, this is a circus, I don't want to be here anymore? I'm going to go somewhere where my 3 straight 12-win seasons would be appreciated. Carolina would murder for that right now. They absolutely would. And some of the Cowboys are going, it's just not good enough. And both sides might be right, by the way, on that front. From Calvin Jefferson, am I wrong for being skeptical about Zimmer? I don't think you're wrong. I hope that when we look back, and I'm sure you agree, Calvin, in 3 months or 4 months, 5 months, you were wrong to be skeptical. But there are reasons to be. He's been out of the game for a little bit. He's on a 1-year deal himself. The defense has to undergo some changes. Maybe the game has passed him by. I think those are all valid risks. I will say of the available options, I thought Zimmer was probably your best bet. From Timmy, is Deuce Vaughn working at wide receiver a bad sign? I think if it were a straight-up position change, yes. That when you see a young guy moving spots in year 1, you go, oh, that's not good. Now, if it actually is just cross-training, and they're giving him the kind of grouping him in the Kevontae Turpin-esque bucket of you're going to help on returns and be the emergency receiver and backup running back in case something happens, then I think it's fine. But I do think it's a very valid question to bring up because, he didn't do much at running back last year, even though he was pretty good in the preseason. So prediction time. Will Deuce Vaughn make the Cowboys roster this upcoming season? Y for yes, N for no in the comments section. Another $5 super chat. Thank you very much, Scott Hoover. I still think Dallas wins the division. I'm not sure the Eagles got better. I think losing Kelsey was painful, and I can't get that meltdown out of my head. I get where you're coming from. I think the Eagles try to do things to get better. I also think that the NFC East curse is also worth having that conversation about too. From Vince, you always say you don't want to pay good players great money. So why isn't that true when it comes to Dak and the quarterback position? Good question, Vince. Long answer coming here. First answer is quarterback's always different. How many good quarterbacks are there? Maybe 15? Maybe you get to top 20? And compare it to let's go with edge rusher, right? I think Dorrance Armstrong is a good edge rusher. Where does Dorrance Armstrong rank among edge rushers? 50th? Maybe? Somewhere in that range? And I think Tyler Biadasz is a good center. Is he a top 10 center? I don't think so. Dak is a top 10 quarterback. He was second team All-Pro. And I also think specifically when it comes to quarterback, the difference between having, you obviously want the great one. The difference between having a good quarterback and an okay quarterback, that's the difference between being a playoff team and not making the postseason, every other year. When that's not the same that's true for a linebacker. You didn't have a good linebacker last season, and you still made the playoffs. Now, you want to find those good players. You don't want to recklessly overpay for stuff, but the fall off in production relative to pay is so stark for a quarterback that I'm willing to maybe use a better example. I'm willing to pay guys like Tua and Jared Goff, and even I think the Baker Mayfield deal was actually pretty darn fair, the Geno Smith deal, because it raises my floor that I'm going to be a contender. Now, if you are convinced it's not going to work with the top, whatever number you want to assign quarterback, okay, different conversation. Then you got to rebuild and tank, and I think that is valid, especially at this stage where the Cowboys are at in their cycle. But I also would say that, if you're second team All-Pro, those don't happen by accident. Good question there, Vince. Now, if you want more Cowboys videos each and every single day, hit that sub button, youtube.com/@CowboysTV. From Scatalytic Dude, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, by the way. I hope so. I see, what is his profile picture? You know what? Maybe I don't want to know. I see no value in trading any frame position other than DT. We got a ton of rookies with massive upside, including Mozzie, Overshown, Leafau, Feoko, Vaughn, Jalen B and T, Brooks and Tolbert, Neal and Carson. I would still consider running back a valid option there because I like Deuce Vaughn, but Deuce Vaughn's not an every down back. But I do think DT is probably number one on that list. Eugene Roberts, in your honest opinion, how do you feel about the Cowboys using the running back by committee approach? Remember when they tried to go wide receiver by committee a couple of years ago and they went, oh my God, we have to trade for Amari Cooper? You guys remember that? I kind of get the same vibes here. I like Rico Dowdle. Cole Beasley was a good football player. But in the slot, they just went, well, we will bracket him. And Terrence Williams was not what he was at his best, and he kind of fell off quickly. Jalen Tolbert wasn't ready yet at that time. Gallup wasn't ready yet at that time. And which I guess maybe Freudian slip there on Gallup and Tolbert. The brighter side is it is running back. It's not as important, and it's more impacted by the offensive line around you compared to, I think, the way the receiver impacts the offense and vice versa. But I'm anxious about it. And my big issue is there's not much speed there. It's kind of a slow group, kind of like that receiving core too. So I would keep my eyes open for an upgrade there. But if the offensive line and the schematics are better, which I think are ifs, the ground game will be better. Running backs don't matter as much as other positions, but the running game does still matter itself. Chris C. says Jamal Adams. I don't. I have enough safeties who can play linebacker / safeties who maybe actually are linebackers. I don't see the benefit there. Give playing time to Wanye Thomas, Marquise Bell, etc. So when it comes to free agency, name a free agent who you would like the Cowboys to sign. Let me know in the comments section. Robert Vasquez, say we're 3-3 and lose convincingly to the 49ers. Would you consider to start tanking at that point? I actually wouldn't. It would be very painful, but unless there's like a rash of injuries and you know your year's over, you're going to have a chance to rally, as we get later on in the season. So it's a fair question. My answer would be no. I would not be tanking quite yet. Zeno saying $5 super chat. People want to replace Dak. Quarterbacks like Lawrence, Herbert, Murray, Allen, Tua, Watson. So many are said to be better, yet none have won a Super Bowl. I think there are several names on that list that I genuinely do not think are better than Dak Prescott. Josh Allen, yeah. Trevor Lawrence, I'm actually okay having that conversation, but he falls in the same bucket of like, my issue overall, and I'll go on a bit of rant here. Herbert's better too. The things we drag Dak Prescott down for are valid. You need better playoff results. Has to be better. And that goes for everyone on the team too. Caveat, blah, blah, blah. Several names on that list have had even worse playoff results. Specifically, Tua's never won a playoff game. He's been pretty bad in those games. Deshaun Watson and Herbert blew massive games. By the way, Watson, I think might just be bad now. Kind of worried about that one. If Dak Prescott had any playoff game as bad as Kyler Murray had, it would be brought up every single time someone talks about him. It's not brought up at all for Kyler Murray, even though in that game, it was one of the worst playoff games I've ever seen. He was 19 of 34 for 137 yards and 2 picks. As bad as Dak has been at times in the postseason, never been that bad. So my issue is the standard we hold, and that's not just Dak, it's several quarterbacks out there, does not get held to others. You'll have people say, oh, well, Murray's better. Why? Well, Dak's been bad in the playoffs. I'm like, you watch Kyler? Also, he likes COD too much for me. That's beside the point. If you have not already, follow us on Instagram over at Cowboys Report IG. We've got you guys covered with some more coverage on Instagram.